No live, Kevin. You're on mute, Kevin. Kevin, you're on mute. You're all right now.
Favourite phrase in 2020 and 2021. Good evening. The council would like to advise that this meeting will be live streamed to YouTube and will subsequently appear on the council website. Could I please ask that mobile devices are either switched off or put onto silent during the meeting? Apologies.
Councillor Grayson.
Declarations of interest.
None received.
Kevin, through you, Chair. I did declaration of interest in item 6 and item 7. I am a member of the club.
Okay.
So, Councillor McAloon, are you happy that we put you in the waiting room when these two items are discussed? You're mute, Councillor McAloon.
Yeah, I will take part in the meeting.
Well, if you're to take part in the meeting, Councillor McAloon, you should have put that in writing prior to the meeting or prior to the start of the meeting. So you'd need to write to me now, email me now to participate in the meeting, because you've got to.
Can I call a point of order, Chairman?
Yes, you can.
Chairman, point of order is that unless the member has a prejudicial interest, he can still take part in the meeting.
Yeah.
The fact that there would be
it's whether or not Councillor McAloon thinks he's got a prejudicial interest or whether it's just a non-pecuniary interest. He needs to tell us that.
I just think I haven't got a pecuniary interest. That's what I've got. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a non-pecuniary interest, Chairman. So my point of order would be that the member can still take part in the meeting.
Even though there's a financial interest in there.
Well, my opinion would be that if it was a pecuniary interest, i.e., if Councillor McAloon was making money out of it, then he would have to leave the meeting.
Well, through you, Chair, if this organisation was to disband, then Councillor McAloon would make money out of this organisation, for any funds that were left would be distributed amongst the members.
Yeah.
So on that basis, my view is that Councillor McAloon, as a member, should leave the meeting. Unless he wants...
On another point of order, Chairman, I understand the advice that we're being given from the facilities manager, but as is always the case, declarations of interest are a matter for the member themselves. And if Councillor McAloon buys from the correct process, then he would answer to standards. So Mr. Ransom might well be right in some of what he's saying, but it is down to the member. That will be my point of order.
It is always down to the individual member.
Well, through you, Chair, I will take no part in any voting.
Still doesn't answer the question.
Yeah.
God, it's like
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Foster, did you have something to say there?
Yes, Chair. The guidance that we've been given by the officer is the correct guidance, and it doesn't just apply to Councillor McAloon. It applies to anybody who is a member of that club, because if it's like any other workmen's club, the first thing you do when you join a workmen's club is you buy a share in that club. That gives you a pecuniary interest. And if you have a pecuniary interest in a topic, not only do you not take part in any voting, you don't take part in the discussion, because you could potentially influence the people who have to take the decision. That would be a straightforward reading. I stand to be corrected if people think I'm wrong, but in my experience, I think I have followed the rules exactly.
Through you, Chair, I won't take part in any voting, or I won't influence. I'll just keep quiet. That's all right, Councillor Foster?
Okay, then we'll move on. Members' dispensation.
None received.
Public questions.
None for this evening.
Planning.
None for this evening, Chair.
Right, we'll move on to motions on notice. We have one from Councillor Geldard.
Thank you, Chair. My motion, as set out in the agenda this evening, aims to provide urgent support to Spennymoor Workmen's Club in light of their application to the Community Grants Fund, which is also on the agenda tonight. Spennymoor Workmen's Club have served our town from their premises on King Street for 120 years. Throughout that time, the club has provided entertainment in all shapes and forms for countless generations of Spennymoor residents. And many will have fond memories of having attended a birthday party, a wedding reception, or even a charity night there. Recent storms have seen the premises suffering devastating damage to the roof, which currently puts the viability of the club in jeopardy. Despite being insured for the storm damage, on closer inspection they have found that further work will be required across the different roofing as it's deteriorated over time. This isn't covered by the insurance payout, and this is what they need our help with. Even before the current pandemic, the club sector was struggling. Up and down the country, more and more clubs are permanently closing their doors, despite having served as venues for many of our key life events and milestones year after year. To lose one of our central venues in this town would be a devastating shame, especially when this council has the means to prevent this from happening. I urge all members to support the motion as outlined in the agenda, which is to support the club's application for support in the amount of £5,000. Thank you, Chairman.
Have you got a seconder for that, councillor?
I'll second that.
I've got an RTS in, Chair.
Yeah.
So have I.
Yeah. Would you like to speak, councillor Wood? Your RTS is, no, sorry, councillor Malloy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, some weeks back, the secretary of the Spennymoor Workmen's Club, Mr. Gary Miller, contacted me to see how his club could get some help through storm damages, and advised him to approach his county councillors, the AAP, and also the town council. So I'm happy to second Councillor Geldard's motion, because I've actually seen video coverage of the damage that's been caused to the club, and I do think it's an exceptional case, especially in the current environment that we find ourselves in. And if we can provide £30,000 to a cricket club that benefits a small minority of people of the town, I'm sure we can afford £5,000 to give to a club that a lot of people have benefited from, because it is quite a popular club, and it's not the club's fault as well that they've had to close down. Obviously, this is all coming from COVID restrictions coming in, and we've helped our own tenants as well. So that's another reason why I want to back Councillor Geldard's motion.
I think councillor Wood actually seconded it, or did I mishear?
I seconded it.
Yeah. Okay, councillor Foster, you would like to speak?
I
Sorry. Yeah. Councillor Wood wants to speak, then councillor Foster.
institutions of many places in the town that have been used by so many people that actually come from the town. And I've used it many times, and I think we lose nearly everything in the town. It would be such a shame if we lost that.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Chair. This is a difficult decision. There are things that I think we need to bear in mind when we're doing it. Sentimentally, someone who's used that club, though I'm not a member of that club, I can appreciate what people are saying. And I'm pleased that in the course of the discussion, we've cleared up the question of the insurance and the responsibility of the club to have adequate insurance. And I'm pleased we've been able to deal with that. I suppose one question we might have asked and we might want to follow up on is, for example, if we were to slap a thermometer on the side of the building, as you would in any other community fundraising organisation, exactly how much money is the individual members of the club putting towards this development and proposal? Another question you might want to ask is, in terms of supporting the community, this is a drinking establishment with members in. There are any number of drinking establishments in the town that have closed are on the risk of closing, and are we going to support all of those when the questions come to the future? Are drinking establishments any more important to the community than, for example, a newsagents or a flower shop or a butcher's? All of those are vital to the community. Are we going to offer to do this, make grants in such a way to everybody? These things I think we've got to bear in mind. Are grants necessarily the best way forward? Could we look at, for example, a loan being a lender of last resort and explore whether that was a possibility? Now, I don't know, there are applications into other organisations. One of the organisations I would hope that the club has approached is the CIU, which in the past would have been the route that clubs would have gone down to sort support and mutual aid from the fellowship of other working men's clubs. And that would have been their first part of call for a loan. Again, traditionally in the past, as somebody who's, been involved with clubs, so committee certainly in the past, you would be looking to breweries and doing brewery loans and borrowing money that way on expectations of future sales. So I think there is a danger that we could be creating a precedent that may be hard to follow up on. However worthy the cause, you've always got to say when you make a decision like this, are we making the right decision at the right time? And are we creating a precedent that will be very difficult for other people to follow? Personally, I think there are a number of holes in the application, which is under item 7, which if it was for any other application, we would be asking serious questions about the lack of information there. So personally, I think this would warrant perhaps setting up a working group. Perhaps the chair and others could have a meeting with some of the club representatives and talk through some of the issues about what other areas have they explored. As I said, I'm not against helping them in a practical way, but I think if we are going to be the lender of last resort or the provider of last resort, we should have made sure that they've explored all the opportunities, both where they can get additional funding from, what are the risks we put in by supporting this application above any future possible applications, and also the practicalities of, we only have one quote. Is this the alternative? Are there other quotes that could be explored? I'll be interested to hear some of the answers on those and whether setting up a working party might be a better approach at this stage.
I've got both Mr. and Mrs. Madison to speak. Councillor Madison's. Who wants to speak first?
Thank you, Chair. I'll speak first. Councillor Foster's spoken a lot of sense there. These are difficult times. I think if I can't see anybody getting a share out of any money if the club went way out, because it would obviously be bankrupt and there would be no money there. If there was any monies there, it would go back to CIU. Being on this council in the last 16 years, every time anything like this has come up, it's been thrown out straight away and it's been called wet end. We can't give to wet end. It's drinks, it's going on the same level as the town hall has. But these are difficult times. They want 30,000. We haven't got 30,000 to give. 5,000's okay. But I can't see it coming through this way. We've got to take it from somewhere else. The cricket club has a load of money in. Take the 5,000 out the cricket club, and in May next year, put the 5,000 back into the cricket club. This would be a way of making the club roof safe. It's a very difficult one, but I know they've been in touch with County Council, and I think there's no money there either. So I'm going to think about this one before I vote on it. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Madison. Councillor Mrs. Madison.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Geldard's already publicised this motion on Facebook tonight before any discussion on it. Weeks before this came to the Town Council, all county councillors were asked if they could help. myself and Councillor Thompson responded to them to say we would help if we could and if allowed to use our neighbourhood funding. The application was also subsequently brought by officers of the Town Council to my pre-agenda full council meeting. Officers asked for removal of the grant application, stating there was not sufficient Town Council funds in the grant budget. Also, other matters had to be resolved. So what has changed? At this same meeting, I also advised of myself and Councillor Thompson wanting to put some neighbourhood funding in to support the club, but didn't have the information from the AP, and that I had already sent the club other potential funding applications to apply for. Since all of this, I have had some communications from the AP, and the dissolution clause currently listed in section 31 of the club's constitution currently prohibits community funding from the county council. This is also contrary to STC's community grant scheme and standing orders, which was brought to P&R meeting of the 2nd of February. And further work needs to be done with the committee regarding this current clause, but this is currently held up because of COVID restrictions. I would therefore move that this request should therefore be put into abeyance, as suggested also by Councillor Foster, for a working party to be set up until such time as an amended dissolution clause is agreed with club members. And I have been provided with a copy of the dissolution clause that is currently with the club. As I say, Councillor Thompson and myself were more than happy to support helping the club if it had been at all possible to do so. But we can't go against standing orders. Thank you, Chair.
Got a point of order, Chairman.
Chair, can I second that?
Chairman, can I call a point of order?
Carry on, let's see where it is, Councillor Gildart.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table, and an amendment must be an addition or a subtraction of certain words in the motion. I didn't hear a valid amendment to the motion there. You may have heard something different.
Correct. To amend the motion, you're only supposed to, you can't negate the actual outcome of the motion. You can only try and change it. So you can't, unless you've got something in writing there, that's not going to negate the motion, Councillor Morrison. I'm afraid you can't do that. I think we'll have to vote on it.
I'm happy to vote on this, Chair, but I do feel, well, no, I will make an amendment to the motion, and I will ask that Councillor Geldard's motion on notice is added to the community grant application under item 7. Thank you, Chair.
I need to call another point of order, Chairman. I apologise.
So can you just hold a second, Councillor Geldard? Are you in a position to be able to read out, for the sake of the admin people, so they can make a note of it, Councillor Morrison, exactly what your change to motion is? I'll come back to you, Councillor Geldard.
My motion, Chair, is for
Your
Councillor
amendment. to the motion.
Geldard's motion on notice to be added to the community grant application under item 7.
I've got to say, Councillor Morrison, I don't quite understand what you're saying there. We haven't got to item 7 yet. Are you saying we vote the motion down and then on item 7, change it to 5,000 or remain at 500 and vote on that?
Councillor Geldard's asked for the 500 to be increased to 5,000. We haven't yet got to the community grant to make those changes. Thank you, Chair.
Your second point of order, Councillor Geldard?
Thank you. My point of order was also that that isn't a valid amendment to the motion on the table, Chairman.
Yeah, when we finish speaking, I think the best way forward would be to vote on the motion, and then we'll get the opportunity.
I got an RTS in there, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm coming to you, Ron. I was just answering that. So, okay, Councillor Hiley, do you want to speak?
You're on silent, Ron.
Sorry about that. I just want to say I agree with Councillor Foster's discussions with regards to the legality of membership to the club, and if anything happens to the club, then whatever's left will be distributed towards everybody else. What I would like to ask, listen to what Councillor Madison was saying, that there is no money from the town councillors. There's no money coming from DCC as said on the application, and I understand with that conversation that there's no longer any money coming from the AAP, so that only leaves £5,000 out of the 30. Where does the club expect to get the other 25,000 from?
Well, that's something we haven't got an answer for, Councillor. So while you think on that, I'll move on to Councillor Ian and Judith Machin.
Thank you, Chair. I'm echoing to a degree Councillor Hiley's comments, and I've got several points, and they're all about facts rather than trying to get dragged into the emotion of is it a good thing to do or not. I'd like to know, given the quote of 36,000, how much the insurance covers, how much the club has in the bank in terms of cash, how much the club has received from the government recently, given the current lockdown, and I believe that they're entitled to the funding the government's made available. When we have all of that information, we know what the shortfall is. And we'd like to know where the club, as Councillor Hiley said, where the club intends to go for the balance in order to make up the £36,000. I think echoing the comments from Councillor Foster, I think for a bill that's going to be £36,000, I think we need to have more than one quote.
Are you finished, Councillor Machin? Has Mrs. Machin got something to say? Because we've got both your names on here.
Yeah, sorry, and the last one is, and again, echoing Councillor Foster, is it the intention for members to contribute?
The fucking car.
Can I please ask everyone to make sure that they are on mute?
Sorry, Chair, I've got an emergency at home. I'm just going to have to leave the meeting a second.
Okay.
So can we have, sorry, just to conclude, can we have some information in order to understand, because the grant application doesn't include lots of the information that we would normally expect. And as I think Councillor Foster said, if it was any other application, it probably would have got thrown out.
Councillor, may I just intercede and apologise just before I bring you in, Councillor Richards. We're not at this stage discussing the grant that is on item 7. We're discussing Councillor Geldard's motion. I don't think we've got anything provided is in regards to cost, and that may well. Pardon?
It's very difficult to discuss Councillor Geldard's motion without discussing the grant application, just in my opinion, especially given the information that Councillor Liz Madison has given us with relation to our community grants policies. So that was what I was going to speak on. Again, point of order, that we can't discuss this motion on notice without discussing the community grant.
Well,
Chair-
can I just add is that the grant that's come in has come in from the club and it's asked for £500. It's Councillor Geldard's motion that is asking for £5,000. It's my understanding that the club are initially looking for something to do some very short-term fixing, so that if the club was to reopen, it could be used. But I'm starting to get a little bit confused here, because it doesn't look from what councillors are asking that there isn't enough detail around the motion to show why we should give £5,000 when we don't know where the balance of the money may come from. We don't know whether that's £5,000 just going down the chute. I think, as Councillor Foster says, I'm sure we'll get onto it there. It really needs some thought, and maybe we should have a meeting with the club or the club committee to see just what's happening. But from my conversations with the club, when we were discussing trying to do some neighbourhood funding, they were initially looking for around about £2,000 so that they could shore up the ceiling and make it presentable for if it had to be used. So I think I should carry on and hear what every speaker's got to say, and then I think that we should maybe just vote on the motion that's on the table. I can ask for some advice there from the facilities manager, but I think that's probably the way forward.
I think you described it. I think you've described it perfectly, Chair. I think the way forward is now we've got the motion on the table. We vote on that. I think from an officer's perspective, I think the important thing is that members, whenever they're making a decision of this nature, are aware of the implications of the decision and potential future other applications that might come on board. And that's not trying to influence anybody in any. It's the reality. Once you make a decision of this nature for one organisation, it opens the door for other organisations to make future applications. But that's for members to consider. So I think you just need to vote now, Chair.
Well, there's some people who haven't spoke yet, facilities manager.
Okay.
So I'd like to bring in next, I think it's Councillor Martin Harmer.
Thank you, Chair. In regard to Councillor Geldard's motion, I'd like to propose an amendment. I know we discussed amendments previously, that we amend the first paragraph of his motion to read that in this time of crisis, the Town Council set up a working party to investigate what options of support we can give. I'd like to propose that as an amendment to the motion.
No, because I think Councillor Geldard will probably come back and say that that's changing the amendment. When you have an amendment, and I need to be guided, is that you're only supposed to change a sentence or two, but you're not supposed to change the merit of the motion. You could increase the 5 to 10, or you could decrease the 5 to 1, because you are not changing or negating the motion. You just, am I right in thinking that, Councillor Geldard?
Thank you. I was going to call a point of order there, Chairman. It is, of course, completely your discretion. Standing Order 1E is an amendment, is a proposal to remove or add words to a motion, but it should not negate the motion. Had I been in the chair tonight, I would probably rule that Councillor Harmer's amendment is valid on that basis. But as I say, it's completely up to you, Chairman.
Can you repeat your amendment then?
Yes, certainly, Chair. My amendment is that the first paragraph of Councillor Geldard's motion be changed to read that in this time of crisis, the Town Council set up a working party to investigate what options of support we can offer the club.
Well, and we Right, so we will vote on that amendment then.
Do we have a seconder on that one?
Chair, I'll formally second that motion.
So we've got an admin, can you?
Chair,
call the name?
I did make a request to speak. Councillor Liz Madison.
I'm just checking to see who on the list who hasn't spoke, but I think
also
really,
have a request to speak in before Councillor Harmer there, Chair.
yeah, but you had spoken, Councillor Richards, that's why.
I haven't spoken. I raised the point of order that why are we discussing them separately when they're completely linked together?
Yeah, can I call another point of order? And I apologise for the amount of points of order I'm going to call tonight. Is that okay?
Yes, go on, Councillor Gildard.
Thank you. My point of order is that you now have an amendment on the table. You've now opened the debate on the amendment. Therefore, you would invite a new list of speakers, and so essentially speaking, nobody spoke yet on the amendment.
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
We start again. Anyone who wants to speak on the amendment, and I've got to cut off. Yeah. Okay. Can anybody go on the chat and put the names down if you want to speak on the amendment?
No, don't. Vote for it.
Okay, we'll move to the vote. There's nobody down there.
Chairman, point of order. You do have several requests to speak on that.
Right, suddenly popped in from the bottom. Yeah. Okay, you there to speak, Councillor Gildard?
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Harmer's amendment is a sensible one. My motion tonight set out only as a basis for supporting the club in any way in which we can. Having listened to members and their sensible contributions to the debate, I'm minded to support the amendment as it goes forward to a vote. As I say, I'm hoping that we can support the Workmen's Club however we can as a council. And if we hold that to a working party, then I'm hoping that we can provide substantial financial funding, as I've set out in the original motion.
Can I just ask people to make sure they unmute, please? Right, so Councillor Machin.
Yeah, I'm also supportive of Councillor Harmer's motion and would draw attention to the fact that the first line of Councillor Gildard's motion on notice links item 6 and item 7 when he says the town council will agree to not only support the grant application, blah, blah, blah. So they are linked. And by accepting or moving forward with Councillor Harmer's motion, in effect, we address both item 6 and 7.
Well, we had some discussion beforehand whether we should do that, and the discussion went that we would wait and see what the result of the motion was. So I'm not opposed to that. We probably would go that way, but let's carry on first, please. Are you finished, Councillor Machin?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Richards?
Thank you, Chair. I support Councillor Harmer's amendment in that we should set up a working party group in order to support the club. But I'd like to draw the rest of the council's attention back to the point that was made by Councillor Liz Madison, that our community grants policy does not cover this sort of grant application. Therefore, this motion and the amended motion and the community grant application should be thrown out based on what Councillor Liz Madison said earlier in the evening.
Can I bring in Councillor Liz Madison? She's next.
Chair, when I made my presentation, I just want to clarify what the position currently is on funding arrangements utilising neighbourhood funding and AAP. The situation is not that we are fully in support. However, there needs to be work done with the club to look at the current dissolution clause. And until we are able to sit down with the club and on that respect a working party to do this, it isn't ruled out that neighbourhood funding from myself and Kevin Thompson and also the AAP isn't available. It's just that we need to look at the current clauses that exist with the club and have an amendment to those clauses to enable funding to be provided. Thank you, Chair. I do support the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Malloy.
Thank you, Chair. Just clarification of Councillor Armour's amendments. Is it with the view of financially supporting the club to 5,000? Because the only amendment part I see, Ed, and apologies for having to leave the meeting, was that it was to form a working party up to that point, but not further was said in paragraph 1, but also agreed to increase the amount allocated up to £5,000. So is it to create a working group with the view of still financially supporting the club up to £5,000? Cheers.
Would you like to clarify that, Councillor Armour?
Certainly. To address Councillor Malloy, it's more to look at what support we can offer rather than carrying on with or increasing the grant. As Councillor Geldard said, he wanted to increase it to £5,000. It was more to look at what support we could offer as a council without necessarily committing to an amount of money.
So for the sake of the amendment, you are not asking for £5,000 to be allocated to the club. You're asking for us to have some meetings with the club to support them and find out the best way forward.
That's correct, yes.
Colin, is the admin people happy with what's being? Are they picking it up? Do they need anything repeating?
I'm assuming you've got that, Lisa. Is that correct?
Yes, we've got the motion and the amended motion. Thank you.
Okay, so we just ready to vote, Chair. Just down to you.
Well, I'd still like to give people the opportunity who haven't spoke to speak. And the only person at this time is Councillor Dean Renyard.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's been a very interesting debate on that we've had tonight. I'm very sympathetic to the problems the club has. I'm not a member of this club, but I have been a member of another CIU club in the past. And I do think they're important assets to local communities, and the rate at which social clubs, CIU clubs, have been closing down across the country is quite alarming over the recent years. So it'll be a desperate shame if this club was to disappear and if this council didn't do anything to support them. So I am in favour of the amendment that's been put forward by Councillor Harmer. I think it opens the door to have dialogue with the club to see how we can best support them. And it allows us to explore any concerns that we might have and get answers to some of the questions that have been raised tonight, some legitimate questions about other avenues of fundraising and income that they might have in order to help get the work completed. So yeah, I'm fully behind that. This council does whatever it can to try and support this community facility in the right and proper way. Thank you.
One last speaker. Councillor Hiley hasn't spoken on the amendment. I'll make this the last speaker. Would you like to speak, Councillor Hiley?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just a bit confused. I mean, when people talk to me about disillusionment of with regards to Spennymoor Club, does this mean that the organisations are trying to take it away from being a members club to a public club? That's the first question. And the second question is, even if we go with the amendment, which I'm against anyway, then we're going to have the same problem with the community grant because we want to do exactly the same. We're going to have this conversation all over again without any success, any realistic result from it. Thank you.
Well, I can't answer your first question, Councillor Riley, and Hiley, I don't think there's anyone else can. So could I ask Lisa to read out the amendment so that we can vote on the amendment?
I'm just going back in my notes. Give me 1 second. The amendment I've got is from Councillor Harmer to change the first paragraph to set up a working party to see what support the council can put in place to support the club.
Is that briefly, is that what you said, Councillor Harmer? Is that what your amendment is to be?
Yes, yes, Chair, it is, yes.
Thank you. Could we move to a vote on the amendment now, please?
Yep, I'll go through the list. Councillor Abley.
For the amendment.
Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Geldart.
For.
Councillor Harmer.
For.
Councillor Hiley.
Abstention.
Thank you. Councillor Mr Machin.
For, and I'd like to see a properly completed form submitted.
Councillor Mrs Machin.
For.
Councillor Mr Maddison.
For.
Councillor Mrs Maddison.
For.
Okay. Councillor McAloon.
Lisa, Councillor McAloon can't vote.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Malloy.
For.
Councillor Ranyard.
For.
Councillor Richies.
For.
Councillor Mrs Thompson.
For.
Councillor Mr Thompson.
For.
Councillor Lisa Lisa Thompson. And Councillor Wood, please.
For.
Thank you. I've got 15 for and 1 abstention.
So that means that now becomes the substantive motion, and we need now to vote on the old motion.
Point of order, Chair. The amendment has been passed, so the issue is resolved.
Okay. All right, yeah. Okay then. Now.
Sorry, Chair, through you, how do you want to take this forward with the club? Do you want to write to them, or do you want to, how are you going to set your working party up?
Well, we'll have to set that up through with the facilities manager or the town clerk, writing to the club and invite them to come in for discussion.
Okay, and are you happy that it's the mayor and the chairs of committees involved, or is anybody else?
Well, I think vice chairs should be included as well.
Okay, so the mayor, chairs and vice chairs.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Now, item 7. We said we would include that with item 6. So I think we'll just move on now to item 8.
Okay, Chair, item 8 is just for information only. It's about Historic England upgrading the situation, and it's for note only at this moment in time. There's no impact on the council at this stage.
I think Councillor Foster would like to speak on item 8.
Yes, Chair. I agree it is a point of information, but I took the time to go on the site. And while it does provide the information, it's a little bit disappointing in the terms of there aren't any photographs, and it isn't exactly a dynamic site that would drag people there. I suppose there are people who go around and tick off such sites, almost like train spotting, but the site itself wouldn't necessarily drag people there. But it is important that the information's out there and it is recorded somewhere nationally.
I agree. So can we just take note?
Thank you, Chair.
Item 9.
Yeah, through you, Chair. This was a report that members asked for an update on. It's basically to update members as the current position, having a second opinion undertaken on the vermin control inspections on the 2 allotment sites in Byres Green, following the quotation that we had from Durham County Council. And it's basically just to let members know that a contractor has been contacted, prices obtained to carry out the inspections. However, there's been a delay due to the more stringent national lockdown imposed in January. And as soon as that lockdown situation changes, obviously we'll crack on and get the work done, Chair.
I've got no one wanting to speak, is that correct? Okay, we'll move on to item 10.
Yeah, through you, Chair. It's item 10 is war memorials inspections. Request that members agree to the inspections of the war memorials that we're responsible for. A little bit of background. Obviously, the Town Council is responsible for 5 war memorials in Spennymoor, Byres Green, to the village and to the cemetery. Monies were not usually available for war memorials and were often paid out the public subscriptions, as is in the case of Spennymoor. And further in 2022, we'll see the centenary of the war memorial in Spennymoor. And whilst the grounds and estate staff inspect the war memorials and carry out minor repairs and superficial cleaning, it's to do a proper job, if you want to call it that. It needs to be done by suitably qualified professionals. And basically all we're asking for at this stage, Chair, is for approval to go out and get some quotations for that work to be undertaken and for members' approval to do so.
Thank you, Facilities Manager. I think Councillor Malloy would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I move that we accept the recommendations that we go out and seek any repairs to be done to any of the war memorials. You know, it's the names on those war memorials. They pay the ultimate sacrifice for this country, and it's the very least we can do to respect their memories and respect the service that they've done. And also, September last year, I did report into the town clerk a bit of pointing work that needed doing because there was cracks at the base of the main war memorial on Cheapside, and the town clerk quickly got our lads to do the repointing work, which he done a good job. So I think it is time that we do go ahead and get them all. And if we're going to inspect one, we might as well get them all done. Thank you, Chair.
I've got no one else down to speak, so we'll just move to the recommendations. I don't think we need to go right through everything. Do we agree?
Yes.
Agree.
Agreed.
Item 11.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Item 11 is basically a standard report I bring on an annual basis. It's about key civic events for 2020-2021. The list of events are scheduled there. Obviously, it includes things like the town gala as well, so that we've got their dates booked in. Obviously, everything is subject to COVID restrictions and the government guidance, but just to give members some indication of what we've got planned, should we be allowed to undertake the events throughout the year, Chair.
Thank you, Colin. I'd just like to add, can we make sure that something notification goes out to the organisations that are not part of the town council, such as the gala committee and the people who run the brass festival?
Yes, certainly, Chair. We'll drop them a line confirming that we've got these dates scheduled for them, and just to confirm, get them to confirm back in writing that the intent to go ahead.
Okay, we've got Councillor Neil Foster.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, it has been difficult times. Can I just check? We have provisionally the date for the Mayor's Town Quiz down is April. That I think is plumb in the middle of per the period, if we are going ahead with the elections in May, which I understand this government is determined that we are going to do it in May. So obviously we may have to choose a different date for the mayor's quiz this year.
That's fine, Chair. We're happy to look at that and come up with we'll liaise with the mayor and organise a suitable date.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. I think Councillor Clive Madison would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, looking at this, as Councillor Foster said, the mayor's quiz is right in the middle of Purdah. I could see the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the quizmaster getting struck off if this was to go ahead. So I do think we're going to have to look at this probably in July, August, when we get things and a different mayor in position. One of the things which worries me, I mean, okay, they're saying that the election will go ahead. Christmas was going ahead, and then 2 days before it was sort of cancelled. So we've got to bear that in mind. There's an announcement on the 22nd of February. And one of the problems I see is that Ramside events, we use Ramside events for all our things that we have on in the town hall. The Durham City MP crucified Ramside events in the papers. If we ran our council the same way as Ramside events ran theirs, 8 of our workers would have been sacked and the other 22 would have been put on furlough, because they've put 450 people on furlough and 150 people are no longer required. It's very worrying, and I hope that the town...
Madison, I think we're drifting away from the proposals.
It is events, Councillor Thompson.
Through you, Chair, we hear
Mr. Ransom's got to be involved with
our suppliers.
I don't think this is the appropriate time to discuss furlough of one of our major contractors. It may well be that you want to bring something back specifically aimed at that, but I actually don't think this is the appropriate place to be doing that. Is there anything else you want?
Point taken, Councillor Thompson. I'm just saying that the facilities manager's got to be on his ball for when we start things, hopefully in June, that we do have a supplier in position. That's all I want to say.
I understand that point, and probably if you'd said that earlier on, it might have made a little bit difference to the conversation.
I like to go around the houses, Councillor Thompson.
But so I'm sure the facilities manager will be taken on board about what's available and what isn't available. Let's say I've got anybody else. I think Councillor Mrs. Madison would like the word now.
Thank you, Chair. Several months ago, a proposal came to council to scrap all mayoral events in 2020-21. And at that time, no one knew what was to happen with COVID. And that request was put in abeyance. Several weeks ago, it was stated by officers that civic and event funding had already been absorbed back into normal budget. I was surprised to see this item on the agenda without there having been any discussion with the mayor. There's been no discussion with the mayor, myself, on the mayor's town quiz proposed for the 28th of April, 1 week before elections and already in Purdah period when no councillor should seek any advantage through any form of publicity. I could not support a quiz in my name as mayor so close to an election, nor would I recommend publicity of the event or a quiz master. This event should be put back until the new mayoral year and after local elections have taken place. In regard to the town gala, at a town, which is not a town council event, I wrote to officers in January 2020 asking if they could work with the gala committee to ensure, if COVID allowed it, that this annual event could be delivered. I would appreciate an update on this, and I hear what Mr. Ranson has said, that he hasn't heard anything, will be contacting the Gala Committee. I would appreciate if that information could come back, because we should be working back over with the Gala Committee as to whether or not it is possible for this Gala Committee to go ahead on the date as stipulated in this report. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair, would you like me to respond?
I was just going to say something first, Facilities Manager. I was going to say that you'd already agreed that you would contact them from my initial request, and I see no reason why that shouldn't happen. But yes, we would like to see what their reply is, and I think you've already said that you will speak to the relevant people and reorganise the mayor's quiz, because I think people do recognise that it does fall in the further period. And asking why this was put on the agenda was actually put on the agenda because I thought we should be trying to move forward and look at our events and give the Gala Committee some form of commitment, which we have done that with a date now, and hopefully they will have their meetings and they will respond. So if you would like to speak now.
Yeah, through you, Chair. As you stated, this was on at your request, but also because it's a standard report that comes to members every year. The town quiz was on and put at that date because at the time of the writing of the report, we weren't aware of the government's decision on the elections. But I take on board what members are saying. It's inappropriate time. More than happy to reallocate the town quiz date. And work forward from there. And clearly, we've contacted the Gala Committee. As yet, we haven't had a response, but more than happy to write to them again. And any correspondence and information from that, we'll bring back to members for their attention.
All right, Councillor Hiley, do you want to speak?
It was me first. Sorry, Chair.
Sorry, right.
Sorry, Chair.
Now, just the last one on the last item, the first one on the next item. I would recommend everybody puts the item number next to RTS. It might mean a little bit better understanding at this end. I'd appreciate that.
Apologies, Chair. I had put me item 11 next to this. For the officer, can I just clarify whether there's actually been a typo on this? Because you're saying that this is a civic event for 2020-21. Should this not be 21-2022? Which would kind of possibly alleviate Councillor Liz Madison's concerns about PERDA and about the budget things, because you're saying that the budget for the mayoral events for 2020-2021 have already been used, but these all take place in the financial year 2021-2022. So that's kind of clarification there.
Yeah, it is for this year's events predominantly. Yes, it is.
So would those be the financial year 2021-2022?
Yes.
Thank you. So for Councillor Liz Madison, the budget would not be from something that's already been dissolved. It is from the new budget from April.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Hiley.
Yeah, I just want to confirm what Colin said, that our pre-agenda meeting was well before the actual date was set for the election. So that just confirm or confer Councillor Madison's objections or dislikes over that.
Thank you, Councillor Hiley. Councillor Geldard.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to make a comment mainly around the town quiz. It's no big secret that I've run the town quiz for various mayors since the late Ian Harrington passed it on to me some 7 or 8 years ago. And it's right in space saying that if we were to hold such an event during PERDA, it would cause issues for myself. And I've got no problem in sharing with members that I intend to stand again in the next elections, and that would be the case. What we have done in previous years, obviously not pertaining to any sort of national pandemic, is that we've held the mayor's quiz earlier in the year So we'll be looking at probably in the March time to do that before the further period starts in previous years where we've had a run up to an election. Obviously, I think that's unrealistic for this civic year, and so I would suggest that we probably just strike that event from the list. In fact, it may make more sense to put it at the bottom of the list for April 2022, which would align itself with the next mayoral year, and I think that's what some members have hinted to already. I would move that, Chairman. Let's make some progress.
Thank you very much, Councillor Geldard. Do you think we've got anywhere else left to speak? So can we move the recommendations with the alteration of what Councillor Geldard's just said?
Move, Chair.
Agree.
Thank you.
Agree.
Right. Item 12.
Yeah, through you, Chair, the item 12, it's the new artists. The purpose of the report is to advise members of the exciting news that the council has been able to negotiate the signing of 2 internationally recognised artists to the gallery. Whilst the gallery's been closed following the government guidance around COVID, we've been looking to promote some of the art on Facebook, and we've seen sales of Cornish work of £4,000 in the first week. Basically, we've signed up 2 local artists, internationally renowned but local to Spennymoor and Kristen Steve Rocks. It's a significant achievement for the council to capture the work of such highly regarded artists, and also like Norman Cornish, to have them exhibiting and selling their work in the town is very special to all parties. It's hoped that the partnership will bring additional footfall and in turn sales and generate commission for the council. Although there will be some expenditure around branding and marketing with the gallery, but expected for that to remain within the budget set. So the proposals are that the work is displayed for sale in the form of both originals and prints, and we anticipate that starting potentially in March. But I met the artist this week, and it might be April, and obviously everything's subject to government guidance at this moment. So it's just members to recommend it to note the artist coming into the gallery.
I've got no one wanting to speak. Okay, then we'll move on to item 13. Scrap metal.
Yeah, through you, Chair. It's just, again, it's for information to advise members of the income received from some scrap items that the Grounds and Estates Office has been working on. He's scrapped, a number of fly tippings and some old lights. The financial situation is that there's been £291 received from the scrap. Since the report was written, Danny's advice is that he's received a further £88.40. So it's just for members' information so that you're aware of what we're doing.
Thank you very much, Facilities Manager. I've got no one down to speak. So I'd just like to close the meeting and thank you for your participation. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.